Hello and welcome. My name is Tara, and I'm going to be talking about a recent podcast that I uploaded. So do check it out. I will leave a link below called The Frequency of Control and Censorship. Now, this is something that I have had to work through on my own. And when I went into this podcast episode in particular, I wasn't really focused on talking about what we already see and what we're already witnessing happening in the world, and truthfully, what we've been accustomed to for hundreds of years. Control and censorship has been around for a long time. It has evolved and morphed into different forms of it. But as humanity, we have been accustomed to, and not in a healthy way, of living under the frequency of control and censorship. And in my podcast, I talked about the history of it, just some of the early developments of how it happened to be, why. I'm sure we all understand why. What we are experiencing today in different parts of the world. I'm experiencing it here in Canada on many levels. But I'm not going into the details of it. I'm going into how we can work with the energy and the frequency of control and censorship, how that affects us on a personal level, and tuning in with our emotions and our thoughts and our fears to make a better life for ourselves, right? So we have been living under control for hundreds of years. And I feel that it has affected us deeply on so many levels that we don't even realize. And when we are under control, or when we live in a controlled environment, we become imbalanced, and it creates a lot of imbalances within ourselves that, again, we may not even realize. We may not realize how living under the frequency of control can affect our emotions, can affect our will, our sense of freedom, our sense of the ability to speak our voice and feel comfortable in doing so. And for myself, this has been something that I have had to go through over the last couple of years, creating content and also doing what I want to do. Recently, this came up for me, and that's why I recorded this podcast, because I was faced at a moment of realization of how much I have been restricting myself around what I have been saying. And especially online, we do have to have a level of awareness around what we say, because a lot of these platforms do have censorship involved, right? Even if we are trying to send a message that is helpful and positive, there still can be a level of censorship attached to this. So yes, I have been careful about what I have been saying, but I feel like it's almost been too much. Even before I was aware of that, I had a lot of fear just speaking my voice, being in my truth, saying what I feel like saying it in a way where I feel safe or I feel confident within myself to say what I want to say or present my knowledge, my wisdom in a certain way. And it has been a process for me to overcome dismantling those fears and being very aware of what is happening on a very, very deep subconscious level. How am I being restricted internally, energetically, emotionally, psychologically, and how can I break through those patterns for myself? And that's what this is all about. We can create a difference in this world by being very mindful and aware of us first. And that's the point of my channel. That's the point of my podcast. It's the point of my work, is how can we make a difference in the world, in our world, but also the greater world, because it's all connected and we're all connected. And when we start doing the work here, we are creating bigger change. We're creating bigger change within ourselves so that we can set ourselves free of the restrictions. The control and restrictions exist, but it's up to us to learn how to deal with it in a healthy way so that we're not getting affected, so that we still feel, no matter what, we can still feel at peace and liberated within ourselves. But fear comes into play when the restrictions and control is being kind of like highlighted in our face, essentially. We can be triggered by fear. And this fear comes from past life. This fear comes from ancestral wounds. This fear comes from ourselves, how we've been conditioned, the experiences that we have faced during our entire life, from our family, from being in school, from our peers, from society. We have been thrown the restrictions and control and fear around that since the very beginning, right? So this is something that is really important for us to pay attention to with ourselves first, and how we can break through the barriers and limitations of ourselves to set ourselves free first, so we can feel confident expressing ourselves, so we can feel in our power communicating and sharing our wisdom and our knowledge for the greatest good of all. Now, we can look at the world as something dangerous, succumb to fear and negativity around all of the changes that are happening that have become very suppressive and oppressive, we can fall under that fear, which will crumble us. It will suppress us even more. So it's really important to be aware of what this is creating within us, the anger, the triggers, the resentment, unhealthy triggers that may evolve within ourselves because of some of the things that are happening in the world. Or we can first focus on ourselves, cut out the negativity and what is happening, still being aware of what's going on. It's not about disconnecting from awareness, but focusing on ourselves first so that we are not letting that energy or that frequency affect us in unhealthy ways. And really the inner work, when we start connecting with ourselves first, we can create greater change moving out. Because also too, what has happened to a lot of us is our voice has been silenced, our confidence has been diminished. Our imbalances have been created within ourselves because of a lot of the control and oppression that has happened throughout many lifetimes. So the frequency, and if you can think, everything is energy. And when we come into this world already born into fear and control and restrictions and imbalances, then we're naturally going to inherently have those imbalances within ourselves and those fears that will be entrapped within us without us even knowing, and it will cause disruptions in ways that we won't be able to realize. So there are many layers within ourselves. There is the deep subconscious, which we need guidance in order to reach those places. Those places are places within us that we can't see, and we won't be able to see unless we have guidance to help us address them. Then there are the areas within ourselves through observation and through awareness and reflection we can reach within our subconscious to bring to the conscious level to create the awareness for change within ourselves and in how we are operating in the world and how we are responding to certain things and our behaviors as a result. So do check out the podcast. I will leave a link below. It goes into some detail, and it's really around cultivating awareness so that we can rise above this, so we can identify within ourselves what some of these limitations and restrictions and fears and the control and censorship, the frequency of this has, how it has affected us and how it is affecting us right now, and how we can turn it around so we can rise above. All right, so do check it out. Link is below. And if you're liking this content, make sure to join me on Patreon, where I talk about this and all sorts of great things every week, including much more. The link is going to be below as well. And I'm wishing you all the best throughout your transformative journey and beyond. Until next time, I will be seeing you very soon, and take care.